Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Betsy Phillips, and I am very excited today to have Lori Goldstein with us. She is an employment attorney, and quite a good one at that, I might add. And I'm really excited because right now, in this time of COVID and sexual harassment, which is all over the place, we are thrilled. I am thrilled to have Lori with us to talk a little bit about all of those topics. So welcome, Lori.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you for having me and the opportunity. It's great to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. So let's start with COVID. Employers want to know how to handle that. Employees want to know what their rights are. And everybody's confused about everything.
And this has been going on since last April, pretty much.
Right. And I'm assuming maybe laws have changed and evolved.
You are correct.
Okay. So where are we?
And so basically starting last April, we've had some paid sick leave laws. We had unemployment extensions and COBRA extensions, and the laws kept changing. So employers have had to deal with all of these changes, and workers have as well, employees and independent contractors. So we've been going with the flow. And the latest right now, I'm hearing from employers asking about coming back to the office, whether they've been either fully remote or partially remote, but when and how do we get employees to start coming back in and being comfortable at the office, and what are all of the things we have to do to make sure people are safe? So there's a lot that goes into it. There's the actual physical safety of the workspace, which you'd probably know about as a realtor.
Well, I'm really excited to hear. Do you feel that's a trend, that people are wanting their employees to come back?
It seems to be, but they're being very understanding. A lot of them are surveying employees to see what the mindset is, and offering employees the option to start coming back and not requiring everybody to come back. On the other hand, I have some clients who need everybody back, and as heartless as it sounds, they have to start, putting pressure on and letting people know we really do need you back. We need you on site and everything's safe. And here's what you have to do. But as long as they're keeping the protocols, the masks and the social distancing and things like that, it should work.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm personally happy to hear that post-COVID, people will once again be back in office space, just because I personally just don't want to lose that social interaction. It's just, I'm okay with people if they're feeling that it's not safe. But I would hate to be living in a world 5 years from now when COVID, hopefully a pandemic is not going to be occurring, where people just live their existences in through their device, and they aren't human to human. So
right. That's not a good thing either. That not having the social interaction. And I've heard companies say, even though employees can be productive working from home and we can do the face-to-face digitally, it isn't the same. It's not the same kind of collaboration. It's not walking over to, somebody's office and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And it seems there's more creativity when you're together.
Yes.
So
I totally, and just picking up on little things that somebody may say and you're going, oh, that's a good idea. You're just missing little nuances by everybody being in their little space.
Exactly.
So that's one thing that we have to make sure the protocols and everything is correct, because they are wanting people to come back. What if you don't want to come back? Can you say no?
So, which is the typical lawyer answer.
Yes.
There are some valid reasons for not coming back or not being in the workspace. If you have a disability that prevents you from either being there right now or being there until everybody's vaccinated or something like that, a company has to consider reasonable accommodations, which include work from home or perhaps a private workspace, a private office, something that would work for both the company and the employee so the work can get done. You can't just tell them, come back or you're fired.
Okay.
But people who have a reason, have a general fear of going back into the office, which is understandable, but they're speculating and they're just assuming that not everybody will be vaccinated, which could be the case and shouldn't be a problem if people still wear masks and social distance. If they're concerned about, what ifs, that isn't really a reason to not go back to work. So a company can say you do have to come back. And if they don't come back, there's probably a lot of other people right now getting unemployment that would love to have that job.
Right.
Of unemployment, if you refuse a suitable offer of work, you will not get unemployment. So you'll lose your job and you won't get unemployment, and nobody wants to be in that situation.
Right. Right.
So,
Speaking of unemployment, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, unemployment wages are taxable. Question mark.
Normally they are taxable. Normally, but this year there's an exception.
Okay, that was a good question.
It's a great question, and I learned this. I don't do unemployment law, but I learned this because my daughter received unemployment comp, and we were helping her do her taxes. And I believe the first $10,000 or so of your unemployment benefits are not taxed by the federal government. So, people did receive more than that because of the federal supplements, but there's a portion.
But at least the first 10,000, that's 10,000. That's a lot of money. It's not like the first 10. So that's really good to know.
Exactly. And I don't understand why they do tax unemployment benefits, because you're getting them because you're not working. You're not getting much from unemployment. And
Right.
why are you getting money from the government just to pay it back to the government?
Yeah, that's sort of crazy.
Stimulus checks. People are using those to pay their income tax.
Right. So, and stimulus checks, are those taxable? Do you know? I don't know.
Doubt it. I don't know, but I would doubt it. It wouldn't make sense to give somebody a $1,400 stimulus payment and have them pay, $600 or $700 back.
That makes no sense. Okay, that's good to know.
Good question.
Do you know anything about what's going on with this COBRA thing?
COBRA also, because of, COBRA last year had extensions in terms of how much time somebody had to elect it. Normally it's 60 days after your job is gone or your hours are reduced. But they kept giving extensions. People had a lot of time to do it. And the best thing is that the most recent stimulus law, the American Rescue Plan Act, which was enacted a couple of weeks ago, now provides free COBRA to everybody who needs COBRA, who's eligible, from April 1st to September 30th. So employers have to pay for it, including the fees, and then they get it all back in payroll tax credits. I can't tell you how many people have been so excited that I've talked to this week to hear that. I don't have to go on the marketplace. It's a real.
So I will tell you, my daughter is in that situation. So her employer, and I'm not saying anybody's name, so nobody knows, they told her she was eligible, but they don't really know how to implement it yet. So she got scared and went ahead and paid 1 month of Marketplace, because it's not exactly like, oh, just fill out this form and everybody knows what they're doing. So I'm sure you've sort of
right. That's kind of how things have been for the last year. Skin of the teeth I mean, everybody has the best intentions and the government
Right.
come up
It's
with great laws, but then we have to implement it and there aren't regulations yet and there aren't the forms yet. So how do we do this? But
right. That's it. That it's there. Everybody knows it's there. Everybody's thankful for it. It just, we have to be, and it's nothing malicious anybody's doing. It just happens. We have an idea, we vote on it, and then we have to implement it, and it,
right,
as a country, and it takes time.
right. We go through the motions, but it'll work.
Right. So let's switch over to sexual harassment a little bit, because that's another hot topic.
It is.
Is I'm assuming more for, I mean, I'll be honest, I mean, I'm old, so I'm 62 years old. So when I first went into work, men would say all kinds of things that today, I think, I don't know what the legal crime is, but oh my God, I could give you a list right off the top of my head.
Yes.
So how's that playing out in the real world?
I hear stories like yours all the time. You know, when I got out of college, or I was in this situation or that situation, and either I didn't know any better, or what could I say? I needed to keep my job, which still happens these days.
Yeah.
But, because of what's gone on with Harvey Weinstein and what blew up in Me Too movement and the entertainment world, the political world, it's everywhere. The universities, the legislatures have gotten serious about sexual harassment. A lot of laws have been tightened. So in Illinois, for example, last year, the Illinois Human Rights Act was amended so that sexual harassment training is required annually for every employer that has at least one employee in Illinois.
Ooh, that's important to know. So you have a little company, you need to do this. This is not just for big companies. This is mom and pop shops. If you have a coffee shop and you have 3 employees, you need to give some, and how do they find out where to do that? Or how to do it?
There's options. I provide sexual harassment training, and I've done it to for my clients who've had 3 or 4 employees, and I've done it for clients that have 150 employees. They can go to the Illinois Department of Human Rights website, and there's a model training program with a PowerPoint. There are companies that are selling sexual harassment training. HR consultants can provide it. So there are a lot of options, but I highly recommend it. Well, it's required.
So could you get like audited and find out that you didn't do it and then get in trouble? I would assume.
Yes. Yep. There could be fines, or your employees could rat on you and tell the government that they're not getting the training. It's also not only good to have because people need to understand what sexual harassment is and what it isn't, how to complain and what will be done about it. But it's great for morale. It's great for retention, productivity. And there's so many gray areas with sexual harassment. Can I ask this? Can I say this? What's okay? And the problem is it depends on the person you're talking to. You never know necessarily how sensitive they might be, or if they're offended. Not everybody's comfortable saying stop, or I don't like that, or don't ask me that. So you have to really err on the side of being conservative and really be careful what you say and what you do.
I guess we have to go back to the Victorian days where you didn't say anything to anybody about anything but the weather.
Yeah, well, that's what people say to me now, and it doesn't have to be that cold. You can still talk about the weekend and ask about somebody's kids, as long as you're not prying and invading privacy and making offensive comments or asking questions, that really shouldn't be asked.
Right. How was your weekend? Right. Right.
Right.
Good, good.
Yeah. And there are now more sexual harassment policies out, which there should be. That's another thing companies should have. And I'm getting a lot of calls now about claims, sexual harassment complaints, or people asking, is this okay? Should they be doing this? What should I do? I experienced this.
Really, so that's the kind of thing. So if somebody is like me, when I went for an interview with a very large company and they said, well, if you just got married, I'm thinking that you're going to want to have babies, and I'm thinking that's not going to work for us.
Oh, God.
I could call you and complain.
Nightmare.
Okay.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's not just sexual harassment. I mean, there's so many, areas that are
Of discrimination.
limits. Right. There's so many protected categories, and now sexual orientation and gender identity are considered protected under federal law. They had been before.
But under federal, because I thought that states, that goes back to the guy with the cake, the baker that didn't want to bake the cake for the
right, for the
gay
same
gentleman.
sex. For
same sex. Right. So under federal law, he is obligated to bake the cake, or how does that work?
Right. So now federal law, which is Title VII, the Civil Rights Act, if it applies to companies that have 15 or more employees. So those companies are now bound by harassment and discrimination prohibition on those based on sexual orientation and gender identity. But many states, including Illinois, have protected those for several years. The City of Chicago Ordinance does, the Cook County Human Rights Ordinance does. So yes, even though it wasn't protected federally, other than for federal contractors, there were other laws that applied.
Okay, so, and is this a new federal law, or is this?
Well, Title VII has been around since 1964. It's the Civil Rights Act that came about because of race discrimination. But this is an amendment. This will change that law and add those as protected categories.
And when did the amendment? When was it voted on? I'm trying to see which.
Well, this is based on President Biden's executive order in January. One of his orders.
That's what I'm getting at. So this is an
new administration.
New administration, right? Okay, that's what I was getting at.
So so sexual harassment can include same-sex harassment and can include harassment based on gender identity. So,
which I'm sure is a huge thing, because things come out of people's mouths. They don't even think they're being, that they're saying something wrong.
Right.
They are.
And that's another reason, not only for sexual harassment training, but a lot of companies are now doing diversity training, sensitivity training on race, religion, all differences that we have, so that people, first of all, have an awareness and can understand themselves, where they're coming from, where their colleagues and friends are coming from, and have the difficult conversations and break the ice.
So you do some of that training as well, or you speak on it, or?
I do the legal training, to avoid discrimination and harassment, but there are other experts that do diversity and inclusion training, particularly about that, not necessarily only in the workplace.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. That's really good to know. So I want to make sure anybody that's watching, they understand that they need this sexual harassment training if they have more than one employee. Is that correct? So,
one or more.
One or more. So that means if you think you're a small business and it doesn't apply to you, that is not true. So that is really important, and people should reach out to you, Lori, to get help, because that could be a nightmare in the making for a company that just doesn't think the law applies to them, but it does.
Right. And the law, that same law applies to every size employer for age, race, disability. So they're covered by all of those discrimination and harassment laws now. It used to be only covering employers with 15 or more. That changed last July. So little employers now have a lot more requirements.
Well, that's important. That is really important. Is there anything else that you want to just make sure everybody out there knows before we finish up?
Yes, I'll say a couple of important things. Whether you're a worker or an employer, document, keep notes of things that happen. It's important to have a regular documentation because if you do end up having to talk with a lawyer, it's nice to have that relevant history. Another thing is if something doesn't feel right at the workplace and you're uncomfortable about it, feel free to reach out to me or any employment lawyer and just get a gut check. There are a lot of things that happen in the workplace that are unfair, unhealthy, should not happen, but are not necessarily illegal. So you want to know what your rights are.
That's really important. I bet that happens a lot.
It does. It does. Yeah. And many times I have to tell somebody, you should probably be looking for another job because they're not going to change, and that's the culture. And as long as it's not illegal, you don't really.
There's nothing you can do. Right.
So be practical about it. And I like people to get peaceful resolution and closure, not have to litigate, move forward.
Right. But people that are really bad actors need to get stopped. You know, if they're doing something that's really
bad.
They
need to take that seriously and need to do something about it. And they need to have good policies in place and train the managers so they know how to deal with it.
Right. That's wonderful. That is so good. This is really, you have been so helpful.
My pleasure. Thank you. I love to help. That's I'm sure you're the same way. We love.
Yes. And that's it. And that's why, you know, I want to be able to bring people like Lori out to people in our community so they can get the help that they need. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, especially with sexual harassment, that don't know where to turn. So Lori is a great resource for that. And thank you for being available, and thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
This was great.
Let's enjoy another sunny day.
Let's do a sunny weekend.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
You too. Happy April. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.